This gentleman here talking about probate and how it's affecting ownership of black and brown community of owning real estate.
The individual passes, their house is not in a trust, so the state takes over, and it's called the probate process. And that's when the majority of houses get lost, because now people could dispute it, people could fight for the assets, etc. The only way to prevent that is to have your property in a trust. Okay, it prevents probate, and it has a will, so you could say who has what. Ladies and gentlemen, Mexican people, listen up, go get a trust. Avoid all the headaches.
This hurts in terms of people in the black and brown community losing homes due to probate, because I've seen this happen too many times, not on the news, but in real life. Black and brown families losing the home of the parents and grandparents who worked for that home their entire lives, not because they didn't love their family, not because they didn't work hard, not because nobody taught them how to protect what they fought hard to build. And so when you have no trust, no will, no paperwork, the state steps in and does what the family never intended. Here's what people don't realize. Probate can drag on for years. For example, you know what I'm talking about? I'm talking about Michael Jackson. What? Court filings in June 2024 by the executors Jackson say died with more than $500 million of debt. At the time of his death, his estate faced over 65 creditor claims and multiple lawsuits. Do you know why? Because it wasn't in the trust. His estate, the estate of Michael Jackson, has since rebounded, generating enormous posthumous revenue from music catalog sales, licensing, and merchandising. There remains a major tax issue with the IRS over how much the estate was worth when he died. This is what we're talking about: probate court, tax court. Now, having more than $5 million of debt does not necessarily mean that the state owed exactly that. Michael Jackson's estate earned approximately $600 million in 2024. Why? Because he owned a record catalog. He owned a publishing catalog owned by Sony. His family decided to sell 50% of that stake. It may generate $600 million in cash. But the problem, though, is probate court's looking at it like, well, hey, you owe us money in estate tax court. The United States estate tax return is required only if the gross value of the deceased person's estate plus any adjustable taxable gifts exceeds filing threshold for the year of death. The decedent dying in 2025, this threshold is $13.99 million, basically $14 million. If you die with $20 million, with that $10 million of liquid cash, in addition to your life insurance, your real estate holdings, your stock ownership holdings, and your liquid cash, guess what you now owe? You owe estate tax, debt tax. Guess what your family has to do? They got to fill out the Form 706. And they don't fill out the Form 706, and you didn't have a will or a trust, then your estate is exposed to death tax. And this is what this gentleman means by many black and brown families are losing their houses to probate. Now, many of them may not have homes or estates over $14 million. They're just losing it because they think it's naturally going to go from one family member to another. In some states, it might, but it's better to have a trust, own your property, so therefore it stays private. When you put a trust in your estate, what you're doing, you're putting a cloak, you're putting a document, you're putting a corporation to protect your family estate. Like, for example, if Michael Jackson's stuff was in a proper estate plan, none of this stuff would be open right now to public viewing. It wouldn't be Googleable. It wouldn't be ChatGPT. Nobody would know about it. Kind of like what nobody knows right now about Charlie Kirk, because his stuff was inside a estate plan. But a lot of people, when they pass away and they're wealthy, they have proper estate plan put together, you are now private. A lot of people don't know the details about the Rockefeller estate. Why? Because it was put in a proper trust. So these are things that we have to consider when you're starting to build wealth. If you like that clip, watch the next one over here. To watch the full-length episode, click over here.